then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me.
Man, it is great. I am looking forward to Nashville. You know, we had the longest race of the season last week at Charlotte on a Monday night. It was like Monday Night Raw. But nonetheless, here we are, getting ready to get cranked up to crazy here in Nashville. Our first, you know, they call it Nashville Super Speedway, but it's really that mile and a half, and it's all concrete. One of three total concrete tracks that we will face here. So, you know, I ran the INS race here earlier this morning, and Shane, my biggest Achilles heel, if you will, was getting off that concrete surface and onto that pavement or that asphalt surface of pit road. That's going to be the trouble thing here, or the troublesome for some of these drivers if they have not practiced that pit road or those pit stops. You gotta practice those, as we got 5 minutes. And I'm sure, you know, out of all these drivers here, the guy that can get on and off pit road the best, you got to have a lot of things work for you here. You know, and they're going to relieve to go about a third of the distance as they did last week. Yeah, hopefully we won't. This should be. It's still a technical track. This is going to be rough, and these cars are going to go tight. On the sixth setup. After the sun goes down, because we are once again racing into the night. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are actually going to be on the air while the real life cup race is going on, but that hasn't stopped this incredible turnout here all season long, as we got some familiar faces. And to your point, Shane, sometimes that longer race just wasn't for everybody. Is want to thank also Hanover Fist for joining us in the broadcast booth last night, as we were about 30 seconds away from getting ready to go here. Well, right now, just in practice, John Ross is sitting second right now. But I think this is going to come down to a fuel mileage race, and Charles Van Schaik is going to be that man. Now, however, though, if you think back a couple of weeks ago, there's a little bit of a rivalry brewing between Van Schaik and Travis Gilbert, who is also in the field tonight. Oh boy, this is a cool front row. Brian Smith is one who has 5 wins on the year, including that All-Star win. But the rocket, Zach Lockett to his outside. Oh boy, in that adrenaline motorsports car. Shane, let's get going. Let's bring this thing to green flag racing. Yeah, exactly. No, and you got to be really smooth here. Now, what I was finding earlier this morning is I was actually backing my corners up. I was actually downshifting from 5th to 4th, and that's what a lot of these guys are going to be doing, especially when this car goes to the tight side. And you really got to hit your marks. Because if you miss that corner, you're going to miss it big. Because we got a car onto the apron already. No harm, no foul. Good to see you. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a lot of these guys took last Monday off. They knew it was gonna be a long race, but they wanted to go spend Memorial Day with their families there. And as they're 3 wide already, Braxton DeWeese get 3 wide with the 27 car of Jake Champion. These guys are doubled up, and here comes Travis Gilbert in that vet to track number 22. Took a couple weeks off, didn't seem at Wilkesboro, didn't seem last week in Charlotte, but here he is back at Nashville. This is one of his better tracks, statistically speaking, as he's going to come up to the field. And 37 cars here tonight, or 36 took the green flag, 1 didn't. Hanover Fifth says, you know what, I'll just have you back in the race car. This Camber at number 88, and so here's the other thing too. You got to be careful running the outside line. Now, sometimes when you get later in the run, you can start hustling that car around the outside, but that outside line essentially becomes a cheese grater. So you might run the concrete track thinking, oh man, they're not going to tire wear. That these Goodyear Eagles and that concrete does not like each other. These tires are going to fall off fairly quickly. Three wide, almost 3 wide. Chris Camber, Travis Gilbert, and Bentley Glazer, I guess, think better of it. Eight laps in, and Chris Camber still running in that 12th position right now. They're still 2 by 2 doing it Noah's Ark style. Chris Camber getting shuffled to the outside. A little bit further back in the field, we're still watching the Chris Camber battle as he has finally gotten back in the line. Bentley Glazer 2 is outside. Bentley Glazer in neck, and that's a battle with Charles Van Schaik there in that number 23 car. 10 laps into this 180 lap affair.
All right, I think I got it fixed now. Apologies for the beginning of the broadcast. My microphone was not being picked up by our broadcast software. We've got it sorted out now.
Well, we're watching Chris Camber, and these guys are just battling out, just playing peekaboo with each other, trying to feel each other out. As we're watching these guys come down that back stretch, they're starting to get single filed out just a little bit, but it is cloudy and hazy, and that could be from the wildfires up in Canada, as they wanted to replicate the weather as much as possible.
Hard to see everybody through that fog here tonight.
Yeah, just outside of Music City here in Nashville. Lebanon, Tennessee to be exact. And this, up until a couple of years ago, this track never had a Cup Series race until, I wanted to say it was probably 2023 actually. and it was all trucks and Xfinity and IndyCar.
Yeah, puts on a great race. A lot of side-by-side action for sure. As we see Finnegan here battling with Braxton Deweese, Jake Champion, Zach Lockett. They're 2x2. As Finnegan edges out the 93. Zach Lockett, as we mentioned, he's lost 4 positions from starting on that front row. Finnegan up 3 positions. Right now, our biggest mover is Travis Gilbert, up 6 positions, cracking into the top 10.
Dominic Tizio scouting out the number 15, rocking the local and national scheme today. That's the Satan Vito. I'm not going to try that other one.
Car is getting pretty spread out, already about halfway around the track. See this battle here back around 20th. There is nowhere in this field that you can take a break as they're 3 wide. Widener trying to go around the outside. We're going to tuck in there behind Jennings, I believe.
Oh, Kyle Diaz trying to thread the hole of that 86 car.
So far, it looks like being stuck in the middle is just not a good place to be. You lose a lot of speed trying to stay off of the guys on either side of you.
That's what we like to call the sucker hole. Number 13 car, Jonathan Duncan, had a good run going for him last week at Charlotte until, well, he didn't, out of parts unknown. Chris DeWeese shouting out, shout out to Braxton DeWeese for a great job this weekend. The APBA Inboard Boat Racing Driving School thanks to Jeff Wolf for giving his son that opportunity. The YouTube.com live chat starts to come alive here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here with the Icon Cup Series and Sim Racing Media. Don't forget to hit those likes, subscribe, and shares. Get those bell notifications ringing.
And as we hit just about 20 laps, we'll remind everyone this race is 180 laps with stages coming at 50 and 100, so we've got about 30 to go here before we restack them for the first time. And as always, we've got 5 additional sets of tires, and we'll be looking at up to 3 green-white checkers if we need them, but hopefully we won't.
Well, thanks for reminding me, because I was good to know we're 31 laps away from the stage break.
It's been really tight racing, but polite so far. Haven't seen a lot of contact.
Yeah, you know, a lot of these guys are just happy to get back to business as usual after the weird holiday break, you know, and after racing on a Monday, which put a lot of guys out of their normalcy when it comes to racing here at Icon. These guys didn't know what to do with their hands on a Sunday night, and well, you know, they know what to do with it now because they're back to business as usual.
Yeah, we've got a battle brewing here for 7th between Cody Neal and Braxton Deweese.
22 laps in, there's the Rocket, Zach Lockett just outside of your screen. He's back there in that 6th position. Braxton DeWeese right behind him, and Cody Neal. This is starting to get good, this battle. You know, Shane, as the races to as we looked into as we worked our way through the season, the opportunities to get into the playoffs are less and less and less for some of these drivers. You know, and we're both racers. You know, so that means that aggression level is going to start getting higher and higher and higher, and greater and greater and greater.
It does, and you know, when you get closer to that playoff cutoff and you find yourself on the outside looking in, it almost you know, gives you permission to rough guys up, because they know that you need that position, you need that win, kind of a license to kill, if you will.
Meanwhile, Brian Smith with I would say the most wins on the year continues to lead this thing here on lap 25 as we are 26 laps away from that all-important stage break. And he's got Michael Taylor right behind him as Nathan Finnegan, or Jacob Smith rather. That looked like Nathan Finnegan there right behind him. That is Nathan Finnegan.
Yeah, these two have been battling for a couple laps, and you're right, Alan. Brian Smith has 4 wins on the season. He's kind of leading the standings. Finnegan has 3, and then Ryan Patty, Braxton Deweese, Cody Neal, John McNeil, and Chuck Van Schaik all have 1 win guaranteed. And then Jacob Smith punching his ticket last week. So 8 drivers with wins guaranteed to make that playoff. That means there's 8 drivers that are good on points for now, but are going to have to defend that position until we get to the playoffs.
Yeah, so if you're one of the 8 drivers you just mentioned, you're just kind of out here learning things, right? You know, if you're Brian Switch, you're out here racking wins up. But nonetheless, here we are. We're just doing our thing here. You know, until the playoffs come, you can essentially just go out for wins.
Yeah, no pressure, right? Just go get what you can. Try to pick up some bonus points for later in the season. As you see a little bit of contact there between Ross and Smith. As we're 28 laps into this run, you know, the tires have got to start giving up at some point. I haven't seen people getting tight in the wall or even really loose on exit, but Jacob Smith and Ross are kind of finding the limits here as they race side by side for 4th.
Well, here comes Zach Lockett, that number 93 car. He's going to challenge Jacob Smith there, last week's winner. Well, he thought about it anyways. But you know, he thought about it. He's got speed. Right now, Zach Lockett just can't buy any luck at the local convenience store.
He's looking inside of Jacob Smith.
They're neck and neck.
Woo.
It almost looks like these cars are starting to get a little bit tighter, center off. As we were looking at, I believe that is John Ross there, almost using that apron as a helping hand.
Yeah, Nashville has one of those aprons on the front stretch that is too irresistible to not take advantage of when you're trying to work past somebody.
Here we go, pit stops, and there we go, our first bit of trouble. That's what we're talking about pre-race. As Jacob Smith's gonna nose it in the wall, that's gonna be costly.
It is, but not bringing out the yellow, not really getting too much damage. I think that's not the worst thing in the world if he can stay on the lead lap here after the pit cycles go through and just kind of try again at the stage break.
He's on pit road. Here comes Brian Smith right now. He's gonna go 1 lap down.
I would expect the fuel window to be somewhere around 40 laps, you know, give or take a few, depending on how many caution laps we ran in between getting started and how much people have been under pressure to save or not. So
I mean, if you think about it, we got 2 50-lap runs and then that 80-lap run. I think I could stretch it out and maybe flip the second stage.
Yeah, but you've got, what, 5 additional sets of tires? If you pit in the middle of the stage and take tires at the end, you're going to run out there in that third stage. You're going to have to take fuel only at least one stop tonight, I believe. So we've got a battle brewing here between Widener and Gilbert.
Oh, stay out the wall, buddy.
Like I said, I think this is the point where the tires are going away. Put that in your crew chief notebook for later. 30 laps in, these cars are tight.
You're the crew chief. I'm just out here driving. Brian Smith on the Sunday drive, 2.5 seconds ahead of Nathan Finnegan. Right now, in this weird, got a battle for 13th between Jonathan Dunk, or Kyle Diaz, Jonathan Duncan getting in the mix.
Yeah, and DeWeese now battling with Jake Champion. This is the battle for 7th. Jeff Dillon looking to get in there too.
I think if anyone's going to go the distance on the stage, it's going to be Brian Smith. Brian Smith was able to get out front, get out early, and slow the pace of the race down to where he was comfortable driving. Now Brian Smith is out to a 3-second lead and put it on cruise control, essentially.
Chris Camburn hitting pit road. Like I said, I think 40 laps is probably around the window. I'm not sure if you can make it 50 plus the lap and a half you need to get back to pit road after the stage. We'll see if anybody tries it. These drivers sort out the battle for 7th. Kyle Gilbert still working hard back in 17th, and that's Jacob Smith on fresh tires trying to make up as much ground as he can here.
But here's the other thing too, Shane, is, you know, Jacob Smith knows he's the lucky dog.
Well, he is now as Charles Woods, or he isn't anymore.
Oh, we got a big pilot caution.
Well, that's going to make the fuel window real easy.
Hit now.
Not seeing anyone in particular flagged as crashing here, but we saw a number of cars. I think Kyle Purcell was maybe the one to watch here. Go back and see. Yeah, oh, okay, there's already the 17 sideways.
Oh boy.
Purcell involved, but not the one starting it. It was Johnny Hamby. Was the first one I saw sideways.
Not a whole lot of damage to that 17 machine now.
As you see, Jacob Smith is coming up through there. I wonder if he got a little too aggressive.
Oh
no, it was the 74 slowing down to pit. And gets run over there.
I wonder if he called it out to come down the pit road, and maybe John Hamby didn't have time to react.
Yeah, as we ride along here with Hamby, you can tell, yeah, he's certainly not expecting it. And Jacob Smith was behind him, making contact as well. That's going to be another obstacle for that 4 car to overcome now with more damage.
Oh boy. Look, Jacob Smith didn't want to be in the caution. He just wanted a caution.
Yeah, that is going to shake things up here as We've got most drivers pitting. But one driver still not coming down pit road. That is Tyrone Harris. And that's 40 laps. I'm not quite sure what the strategy is there, and that might just be a iRacing timing glitch putting him out in front. But most of the drivers coming down pit road here on lap 40, taking just 2 tires to make it to the end of the stage. Well, I've got Tyrone Harris in first and Braxton DeWeese in second, but Harris having not pitted yet. And we've got a whole pile of wave arounds in front of our leader.
If I am Tyrone Harris, I am absolutely sweating right now.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's found a way to save fuel that none of us were thinking about, I don't think he's in a good position here. But Braxton DeWeese is out front.
Oh, I do not want to watch this restart.
The field still kind of struggling to get situated here. iRacing maybe a little confused themselves about where to put all these lap down cars.
In the back?
As we were, I mean, we were right in the middle of a green flag cycle of pit stops, so sometimes, you know, they get left in the middle here. But it looks like we're gonna have it situated as they're coming out of 4 to get back to racing. We're gonna have just 7 laps to go back to the end of stage 1.
Oh boy, this is not gonna be fun.
Back through the Geico restart zone. Harris making room for himself. And that's going to send him 3 wide as Brian Smith goes low. And back to the lead just like that. DeWeese going to try to cross him over. He is close, but not side by side.
There's the yellow. Sean Purcell goes off the track. John McNeil being flagged in live timing.
Yeah, we got McNeil, Michael Taylor, Tizio involved. Let's go back and see maybe where this started. We are watching the 15. No, it started in front of him. McNeil, and he makes contact there. Let's try that again. Oh, Brad Delph and the 48 getting together.
Oh.
And then the 48 kind of hitting every branch on the crash tree coming down.
That's a good one.
A number of drivers, you know, unlucky enough to catch that 48 as he was getting beaten up through there. Yeah, going to start with contact with the 72, then Zach Lockett getting some contact. Michael Taylor, I think, skated through. The 15 caught up in it, the 98.
Okay, Tyrone went to the pits.
Yeah, that was... He made it 43 laps, though, and that's the furthest we've seen anyone go. When we get
I'm not going to lie. Tyrone had me holding my breath there for a minute.
Yeah, that was a risky move for sure.
Okay, so put your driver hat on. You're in the field and you see a driver make. I'm sorry, but you know that staying out the initial time for that restart, that would bear the Allen Experience bonehead move of the race. Look, if I get angry texts from Dave Regal, if I fail, it's leading a lap is not that important. Not in stage 1.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're trying to get a bonus point, that is a risky move to be out in front of this 36 car field on old tires and possibly short on fuel. But he was able to survive this time.
You can see the text from Dave Regal rolling in. The minute, and Shane, I'm going to tell you the story because we're under caution. Dave Regal has announced a number of leagues that I've been in where he saw me pull a move on that, and it's like clockwork. I see a text from Dave saying "pit now" in all caps and exclamation points. But nonetheless, here we are, 2x2 behind that Iracing.com pace car, doing it Noah's Ark style. Brian Smith, Braxton Deweese on the front row, Travis Gilbert, and that number 22 car, the Double Deuce, bringing it up to fourth. And oh boy, Charles Van Schaik running third right now currently. Oh, this is going to get good as that Iracing.com pace car gets ready to dive on the pit road. 4 laps to go in the stage. We'll make that 5 laps to go here in the stage 1, where we're at on lap number 46. Braxton Deweese, Brian Smith have control of the field. Through the Geico restart zone we go. 3, 2, 1, back to green flag racing here from Nashville.
And Brian Smith gets a nice comfortable buffer already heading into turn 1. Deweese having to battle with Chuck Van Schaik. Again, all these drivers taking 2 tires about 10 laps ago. And Chuck.
Brian?
Oh,
I said Brian Smith just hit the afterburners.
That Duncan coming around the outside 3 wide makes it stick up to third.
Here's the thing: if you're Christian Scheich and you're three laps away from the stage, and you know you got Travis Gilbert lurking around behind you, I am not gonna make it easy for Travis Gilbert to get around me. Especially because us drivers, we put certain things into the memory book, and oh boy, and I'm sure that comment that Gilbert made in Texas was one of those things that CBS put into that memory bank.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to correct myself, Alan. I was misreading the timing charts. Most of the drivers taking no fuel or no tires, fuel only. Duncan took 2 tires, just turned the fastest lap of the race as he goes around the outside of Smith. Oh, there's contact in the wall, but he's all right. Still in the lead as they come back to the stage.
How did he save that?
We're going to have to go back and take a look at that one after the stage comes out. Incredible move by Jonathan Duncan, taking the stage win on the 2-tire pit strategy there at the end. Coming off caution around lap 40.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, that was a smooth move. Let's go back and see that one more time. The blimp's a little too hazy. Let's see if we can find an angle that looks good. There we go. He got to his outside, coming around the front stretch. And then just squeezed him and made it work. And then right here, Smith gets tight, gets into him, but Duncan able to keep it out of the wall and bring home that stage. Some amazing racing here at the end of stage 1. And with that, we're going to take our first commercial break of the night. And we'll be right back for the start of stage 2 with the Icon Cup Series here on Sim Racing Media. to coverage here on SRM of the Icon Cup Series. Sunday night action at the Nashville Superspeedway. Nathan Finnegan going to lead them back to the green here, the start of stage 2. We saw a fantastic finish to stage 1 with Jonathan Duncan sneaking around Brian Smith on the last lap. But right now, after the pit stops, the order a little shaken up. Nathan Finnegan up front, Evan Patinko in second, Charlie Widener in third. And those 4 drivers did not pit at the end of the stage. Brad Delph in 7th also did not pit. Everybody else coming down pit road on lap 51 to get 4 fresh tires, it looks like. Jeff Dillon might be the lone no tires.
Oh, no.
Oh, and we got a caution already.
Jonathan Duncan back there in the back. 25th position.
Looks like Patrick Colby involved, Brad Delph involved. Go back and take a look here. Again, we'll try to get you through the fog here tonight. There's a contact starting there between the 72 and the 13. And then Patrick Colby kind of reacting to it to avoid, goes through the grass. I think he was okay. Not a lot of contact really there for anybody.
I think they might be okay then.
We can take a look at Colby's in-car to see what he's seeing here. You can see the smoke. Cars get sideways. Oh, and just able to avoid heavy contact. Takes a trip through the grass, but I think that was the right move.
I mean, look, a little free landscaping never hurt anybody.
Not at all gonna save some guy on mower a few minutes on Monday. .55 car is your lucky dog there. And again, kind of looking through Brian Smith. He pitted again here under this caution. Topping off on fuel, I would expect, because you probably can make it to lap 100 if you save just a little bit here under caution on lap 57. Again, we think the fuel window around 40 laps, but we did see one driver make it 43 laps before hitting pit road, so we know it's possible. And Duncan, we mentioned he made those great moves at the end of stage 1. And then pit strategy puts him back kind of in the hornet's nest to start stage 2, and a little bit of contact there, but nothing stopping him from marching back up through the field with speed or strategy again. As Nathan Finnegan, Evan Patinko, and Sean Purcell, all your top 3.
Well, here we are, lined up behind that Iracing.com pace car or that beautiful pace truck. As well, we're under constant for the 4th time. Evan Patinko, Nathan Finnegan in your front row as they come down that back straightaway. And Shane, I mean, there's no sign that this haze or fog or whatever it is gonna let up, and this is one of those obstacles that these drivers have to navigate around.
Yeah, let's jump in with Finnegan. It doesn't look as bad from inside the car as it does up in the booth. But as those lights come on and we head into the nighttime, I'm a little curious to see what the fog does to these drivers then. As that pace truck hits pit road again here after our 4th caution of the night. Coming through the Geico restart zone, and Finnegan is away. Looks like everybody really getting a great start there. See Gilbert making moves on the bumper of the 95. He's going to dive under into turn 3. Travis Gilbert, that we're watching right now, he is the first driver on fresh 4 tires, pitting at the end of the stage on lap 51. Expect him to make some moves and passes here on these guys on older tires.
And just like that, here we go. You know, take a look at the weather here on, you know, I did some investigating, and there's light fog expected for the majority of the race.
Sean Purcell in the 74 moving up to the lead. Great to see him up front after being involved in that caution earlier where he came or attempted to come down pit road, and a bit of a communication error with another driver running into the back of him, not expecting him to pit. But he has made up for that as Finnegan goes back to the lead, but Gilbert is there, making it 3 wide for a second. As Purcell falls back into P3, and Gilbert sets his sights on the lead.
This is where Travis Gilbert has shown that speed right now. Here he is on the inside. He's going to go alongside Nathan Finnegan. Not really lean on him too much. And here he comes, that double deuce to the lead. And all the people from the Vet the Track organization are just cheering him on as he goes around Nathan Finnegan to steal that lead up.
Harris has recovered as well from that risky pit strategy a few cautions ago. He's running 11th there with Brian Smith.
This is the first time all race long that Brian Smith has been mired back in this traffic. Right now he's currently 9 spots in the wrong direction, running 10th. He's got Kyle Diaz right in front of him. John Ross out of Adrenaline Motorsports inside the top, or just outside the top 5, just ahead of Braxton DeWeese. John Ross battling Charlie Widener for that 5th position.
Ooh, just a little bit of a love tap there as they came out of turn 2. Ross now diving to the bottom as we have another caution here on lap 65. Michael Jennings involved in this one. Take a quick look here. Yeah, try to find a view with a little less fog. Oh, contact there with the 28. Comes back to repay the favor a little bit, but gets into the wall. Jennings taking the worst of that one.
Car don't look too bad there.
Finnegan coming down pit road, as well as Sean Purcell, Charlie Widener, Braxton DeWeese, Brian Smith. You know, some of these drivers were off of tire strategy, but at this point, I'm not sure what the advantage is of pitting. You're not going to use another set of tires now after just a handful of laps.
No, we're not going to do that. But hey, look, you know, one driver that we have not seen in the field tonight, that is that 30 car Ryan Patty. taking the week off. And here's the thing about running these races through the summer months is you're gonna have drivers take vacations too. So then, you might see a fluctuation where, driver A might not be in the field this week, but he shows up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's the, one of the pros of a win-and-you're-in playoff system is you can afford to take a vacation, kind of recharge your spirit and metabolism, and come back ready to win the next one.
Dominic Tizio asks, what's the bigger upset? Let's see here. Miracle on Ice or Icon Cup Series can stay green at Nashville.
Well, we are already 5 cautions in 65 laps. Gonna have to take the over on the caution upset.
And then we got the hashtag Free Vinny again.
Travis Gilbert and John Ross going to be on the front row when we come back green, but Jacob Smith recovering now up to the 3rd position after his spin onto pit road not that long ago. That was lap 30 that Smith had his issue.
Everybody wants a free Vinny. Look, I want a free Vinny too, but that's not going to happen. No one's got enough no one's got enough bail money to free Vinny.
Yeah, I think it's especially important that we as broadcasters stay neutral in these heavy debates here in the Icon Cup Series with Travis Gilbert and John Ross. Nothing to debate there. They are out front, coming back to green on lap 68. So we have 32 laps to go before we hit the end of stage 2.
John Ross and Travis Gilbert have lots to debate. That's a race lead. Who's going to take it? And Travis Gilbert, for now, has won that debate. And yellow flag is out once again. Ooh. This one involving Nathan Finnegan.
Racing with Harris. Man, that fog seems to be getting thicker. Oh, and they just kind of squeeze each other on entry. I'm gonna have to go back and take another look at that. And Harris comes up into traffic. We're gonna have to back that one up. Let's see, is it too foggy from the blimp? Maybe the chopper will give us a better view here. Is Finnegan coming down the backstretch on the inside of Harris. And Harris just comes down a little early. Maybe not sure that Finnegan was there, and he's got the tires locked up, but can't avoid getting into Cody Eldred hard.
And here's the thing, Shane, is once you lock up those tires on these next gen cars, you're just along for the ride at that point.
So you see Eldred hitting pit road, take care of that damage. That was a pretty hard hit. Nothing worse than seeing a guy, a couple cars in front of you go down into the grass as you're entering the turn because you can't necessarily see where he is, but you know he's coming back eventually.
Yikes. Dominic Tizio taking the odds that Brian Smith will win to Vegas. Look, I'm not a betting man, but I think I can take those odds.
Looking through who's our biggest mover so far. I mean, Gilbert's up 15 spots. He's doing pretty good. But Patrick Colby is up 29 positions. Really been taking advantage of some of this pit strategy to make up track position.
I want to piggyback off that point real quick. I think all season long we've been sleeping on Patrick Colby.
Yeah, I mean he's just been a little quiet. 18th in points currently. 4 top 10s. We've seen him be fast and up front, but seems to catch a lot of bad luck here towards the end of the races. But he's already been through the grass once, so maybe he used up his bad luck mulligan for the night. He can try to battle for the win here at Nashville.
Well, I can tell you one thing: as we get ready to come to Green Flag Racing, Travis Gilbert and Jacob Smith on the front row. Green is out. We're back to racing, and I tell you what, Shane, a lot of these guys are also waiting for the horseshoe to fall out of Brian Smith there in that 78 car.
Yeah, just hope it doesn't take out your radiator on the way. Gilbert is up front with Jacob Smith in P2.
I was going to say, you could end up in Radiator Springs with a bad radiator.
As Jonathan Duncan, again, kind of recovering from the way some of that pit strategy played out. Up 27 positions, right there behind Patrick Colby. With these kind of cautions every 5 or 10 laps, it's really opened the door for some pit strategy. Different tires, splashes of fuel. We've got a 15-lap spread between the oldest tires and the newest tires in the field. And about half
strategies.
Go ahead.
As I say, that strategy is all over the place right now.
And as the temps go down and the sun goes down, this track is picking up speed. About half of the field just ran their personal fastest lap of the race. They're on lap 74. This is a single file parade down the front stretch. Jake Champion trying to hold off Brian Smith and Braxton DeWeese. Further back, Nathan Finnegan on the outside of Zach Lockett. Even when they get single file here at Nashville, it just seems like it's a lap or two before someone is going to be on your inside or outside trying to gain one more position. It's really a grind through this low-banked, high-speed track.
You know, I've been thinking about this for a while, Shane. And I know you're going to get a lot of comments in the chat. But thinking about things lately, I would love to see a cup race at Wilkesboro. Bring back a cup date at Wilkesboro. It's a points race, right? And it's as much as I love the cup chase at not Daytona, but at Worldwide Technology Raceway, I would be willing to give that date up to give it to Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I mean, North Wilkesboro just kind of guarantees great racing, and And somebody's feelings going to be hurt, and that's really what we love as fans. As we watch Brian Smith working hard here on Chuck Van Schaik.
21 laps away from the end of the stage. Chuck Van Schaik doing what he does best, and that is saving gas.
Yeah, giving Brian Smith a hard time. Smith able to squeeze just in front of his nose, as now he goes to the outside of Glazer. And the battle between Colby and Duncan is heating up there for fifth. Now, you mentioned Gateway last night. Mike Damoni and I were calling a race of the ECR League, and I told the people watching, if you look over the back grandstands with your eyes squinted enough, I think you can see Alan Bergen drinking a Budweiser. And we were a little disappointed not to see you chime in the chat on that one.
Oh boy.
Smith able to get around Glazer and now starts working on Patrick Colby. Duncan has also gotten around that 28 and has set sail.
The shadows of the Gateway Arch. Hey, we'll be there for playoff time here in the Icon Cup Series soon enough.
Ooh, almost some contact there as Colby was expecting Smith to go down to the apron, but he didn't. Really, so a veteran move to kind of anticipate maybe he wouldn't make that move and be able to stay out of him. As they stay side by side. There again, you can kind of see everybody a little nervous. Brian Smith is going to come up the track. Kind of force him out of the way here, but he still seems to have the speed he needs. As now he gets around Duncan, moves up into fifth. But Jacob Smith and Cody Neal are beginning to battle for second. John Ross is not that far behind either.
I mean, 16 laps to the end of the stage. I mean, we saw these guys go about 40 laps, so definitely in the stage in the fuel window. And we're gonna see a green flag pit stop in that last stage as we get ready to go to the end of the stage, coming to 15 to go here for the end of stage number 2.
Yeah, just 4 laps to go. Oh, I'm sorry. We've still got 14 laps to go. Stage at 100.
Sometimes you got to remind yourself when the stages are.
It's just there's a lot of numbers on the screen now. The math in my head gets confused sometimes.
Better you than me.
Top 5, kind of riding single file. Look for the battles in the field. They're back here at 20th as Kevin Gunther, Brad Delph, Kyle Gilbert are fighting it out. That fog just getting heavier and heavier as the sun goes down.
Last week we only had a handful of cars in the lead lap at the end of the stage 2. This week we got 26 cars with, John Hamby will effectively win the race to the beer stand. want to thank everybody for joining us here in the youtube.com live chat, on your phones, on your home, or in your homes, wherever you may be enjoying the Icon Cup series. And make sure you hit those bells, give us a like, subscribe, and let's give Shane some love here in the booth. Well, he's a great, just an all-around good guy here to have up here. And Shane, here we are, 11 laps to go in the stage, and it looks like Travis Gilbert could, well, very be on his way to a stage win, unless we see some harrowing dramatics like we did in stage number 1.
Yeah, he's got over a half-second gap to Jacob Smith. And Smith really worried about defending from Cody Neal right now. As we see Neal looking inside. Now Brian Smith joining the party. Ooh, just a nudge from Ross. Smith going to keep it straight. As Neal is now up to P2. Now Gilbert might be running away with first place, but this battle for second is red hot.
Yeah, he's the only one that wants to see these guys go side by side, because he knows that's going to slow these guys down. So, you know, if you will, the longer they stay side by side, as Travis Gilbert is out to a full second now, with just a handful of laps left here in stage number 2, those tires have got to be screaming.
Yeah, I mean, Gilbert's gone 41 laps. You know, actually, I might be a little nervous that Gilbert can make it on fuel. As we mentioned earlier, the furthest we've seen anyone run is 43 laps. Gilbert now starting his 42nd lap. A lot of those were under caution. But he might be having to pedal it a little bit here.
I mean, I've seen drivers cut their car off in the corners.
That's how I like to do it when I need that extra few laps, but usually that costs you a lot of speed, and I'm not really seeing Gilbert give up too much on speed here, as Brian Smith is gaining on him by about 1/10 a lap, but I don't think that's going to be enough to catch him by the end of the stage. As you see, Smith has gotten around Cody Neal.
We got 6 laps to go left here in the stage, with a number of drivers on pit road, or on pit road still. Hanover Fist, Cody Eldridge still getting, could quite possibly be damage repair done.
We've got a heck of a battle here for 12th. 12th through, it's actually about 10th through 15th here, all stacked up together, 2 by 2. All trying to make their way around Patrick Colby. As there's our 7th caution. John McNeil involved.
I'm going to bet that's going to be the stage.
Let's see how this one panned out. Looks like McNeil just carried too much speed into the corner and then had to get up into the 72. Oh, and then, yeah, I don't think the 72 appreciated that too much. Ooh,
boy.
Another driver avoiding that one. Let's see that one again from above. Yeah, I don't know. Just the 48 is kind of out of sorts the whole turn. Maybe wonder if that one didn't start maybe a couple laps earlier, as these guys are battling back and forth. But that's going to send everybody to pit road. You know, this is going to be the 6th pit stop for a handful of drivers. Really some varying pit strategies of drivers like Brian Smith. He's been kind of hitting pit road every time he gets a chance to, just to top off on fuel at least. not afraid to give up a little track position to make sure he's got all that gas in the tank. And with that, Gilbert officially went 46 laps on that tank. Kind of raising the bar on what we can expect there. And like you said, Alan, that is likely to be the stage. And here's the interesting part about that is if you throw the stage at lap 100 and you take your, 2 to 3 laps to get the stage caution worked out, that means we'd be running under 80 laps and kind of be no question that everybody can make it on fuel. But with the stage coming out a couple laps early, we're going to get going a lap or two early. Just be a few extra laps you got to make sure you've got in that fuel tank, as it should be a one-stop race if it stays green here in the third stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will be a one-stop race. And, Brian Smith's got 99 problems, and Travis Gilbert is one, unfortunately.
And looking back, Brian Smith does have the fastest lap of the night, back on lap 77. As we mentioned, the track has been speeding up here as the temps go down. Air temperature now 69 degrees, track temperature 75. And really the battle has been between our cameramen and this fog here tonight. It seems like every lap it gets harder to see these cars running up front.
No chance of the fog burning off just yet.
It does look like the lights have come on here in Nashville Super Speedway. Brian Smith, Travis Gilbert on the front row, Cody Neal and Jacob Smith in row 2. And we are green once again. Neal really got a great push for Brian Smith on the inside line, and both of them break away from the field. Those Buddy Motorsports teammates were undoubtedly on the radio counting down that restart.
Well, here we are, lap 180 or 81 to go. I had to do the math in my head real quick. Now we have 80 to go.
They are 2 by 2 back from 10th to 20th. Everybody trying to get around the person to their side. Kind of do a check on laps led. Brian Smith still out front. He's led 51 laps tonight. Travis Gilbert in P4 has led 36 laps. And Nathan Finnegan in 8th. He's led 10 laps here tonight. I believe the only other drivers to lead a lap were Tyrone Harris, who kind of stayed out, led 2 laps there at the end of the first stage, and Sean Purcell, who we saw get around to the lead using some pit strategy before getting passed by someone on fresher tires a few laps later. And Gilbert and,
look at it.
Dylan and Glazer.
I was gonna say, we're watching Bentley Glazer right now. He's battling with Jeff Dillon pretty hard, and he's fired Jeff Dillon out to that outside line. It's okay to be there on fresh tires. Like you said, this track is gonna be like a cheese grater. Some of these drivers are starting to cut to that wall.
Yeah, and this is really only the second time in this race that the whole field is on the same tire strategy. Everyone taking 4 fresh tires there on lap 97. And really see what you've got here. As our 8th caution is out. Now Jake Champion involved. See what we can see back there for the 27. Ooh, just getting down on the nose of the 95 and then overcorrecting to save it. Kyle Gilbert catches a little bit of that. Everybody else able to make it around, it looks like. Again, the fog just getting worse and worse as the lights have come on here at Nashville Speedway. We're going to do our best to find some camera angles where you can actually see the numbers on the side of the car.
We might have to do this radio style sometime.
Yeah, we might just have to get in the car. No fog down here, an inch off the track. As we ride along on the rear bumper of Brian Smith.
Guy out of Northville, Michigan, a Michigander, up in the lead, right where he belongs. Or he, you know, look, if he wins tonight, this is going to be a statement win for these guys.
Yeah, really no one's been able to just kind of comfortably stay in the top 5. Everyone having to come up through the field at one point or another with all his varying pit strategies. Brian Smith right now back in P1 where he started the race and where he wants to finish it.
Yeah, that's exactly where he wants to finish it. Right where he started there, P1 on the pole. You know, Shane, while you guys were at Gateway last night with ECR, I was watching the big $100,000 to win modified race, the World Modified Championship from Mississippi Thunder on Flow Racing. Shout out to Drake Troutman for winning that. It was cool to see all walks of dirt racing life come to that event. 3 different sanctions. And, well, you know, once again, congratulations to the kid, Drake Troutman. And he's actually from Hyman, Pennsylvania.
Looking at the point standings one more time, I see Travis Gilbert is that highest ranked driver without a win, and he's sitting there in P4. You got to think he would love to just stamp that ticket. Bentley Glazer there behind him as well, looking to do the same. As the lights come back on the pace car and then go out. They're really making sure the track's clean this time. As we have 72 to go.
They got to make sure the track is spotless. Brian Smith, Cody Neal on the front row. Brian Smith, This is the first time in some time that he's led here, as he's gonna warm his tires up. The lights are out around the speedway and on the Iracing.com Chevy Silverado, and you can just see the reflection of the lights on these race cars. You know, there's a different to look, there's a different atmosphere as we come back to Green Flag Racing here on lap 109, working lap number 10. Here we go. It's Shane. I just love night racing so much.
Yeah, it's like the world shrinks down, and only what's inside the walls of the speedway matter. As we see another good start for Brian Smith and Jacob Smith. Cody Neal there with him. That puts the top three all Buddy Motorsports drivers. And Gilbert saying, what do I got to do to get around these guys? One's bad enough. Three, I don't know how I'm going to do it. He's looking to the outside of Neal. No, not quite. Finnegan underneath Van Schaik. That's for P6.
How about this? The Rocket, Zach Lockett, up tonight. He's working on Jonathan Duncan. JD the Superman, Jonathan Duncan, for that 8th position. 2 is inside. He's getting ready to go to work. The adrenaline has been pouring out of that Adrenaline Motorsport number 93 all night long. Is Jonathan Duncan going to get way high out of the racing groove?
Can't imagine you want to get too high here at Nashville. There's not really a Kyle Larson line here.
No, there is not.
As Neal and Gilbert are battling for third. Gilbert trying over and over to get that high line to work, but having to lift a little bit there as Neal tags the wall. Now he's looking to get P2 away from Jacob Smith.
Yeah, just want to point out something here. Brian Smith starting to pull away 0.2 of a second. Here we are looking at Brock Kersey and Brock Kersey and EVC, Ethan Van Colley there. And that number 5 car, or 85 car, sorry. Wow.
Yeah, they are racing all the way around the track right now. Speeds continuing to pick up as drivers in the second half of the field running their fastest laps of the night. Everybody's starting to really find their groove here. We got 17 laps on these tires. I would imagine everyone's going to want to split this final 80 laps right down the middle, get the most out of their tires, which means we got another 25 laps that you need to get out of this set.
But you're gonna have to. Since that pit stop is actually built into this final stage.
The best battle on the track right now is for P15, Jeff Dillon, Kevin Gunther, and that 55. Oh, and Gunther slides up just a little bit. Luckily, no one was right there on his door. Glazer, Lockett, and Colby battling just in front of Braxton Deweese. This is the battle for 9th, 10th, 11th. Right now, it just really doesn't look like anybody's got speed to battle with Brian Smith up front. He is a 10th and a half faster than the rest of the field, using that clean air to do it.
Yeah, he just put the afterburners on and away he goes with 61 laps to go here. And this one, working lap 120. And there's the interval. That's the eyeball test, the half second. Back to Jacob Smith. And Jacob Smith is real hungry to go back to back here tonight.
Continuing to battle in the top 5, but Nathan Finnegan has other ideas. We ride along with Finnegan as he works to the inside of the 44, trying to crack the top 5. He's downshifting to 4th and making the most of it on the bottom.
We kind of knew that was going to have to happen here as we're on board with the Pride of Coventry, Rhode Island.
Yeah, it just seems like at Nashville, when you go to make a pass, it is going to take you a couple laps to do it.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're setting these passes up, you have to set it up a few laps in advance. Because you got to think about how hard is that guy going to race you that you're trying to pass.
And whether it's for 5th or 15th, it seems like the racing is pretty much the same. The bottom line just doesn't seem to be able to complete passes right now.
Oh!
We have some contact back here. Kyle Diaz now banging doors with Braxton Deweese down the front stretch. They're still side by side. And Sean Purcell is trying to find a way to peek his nose in there too. Deweese gets tight out of turn 2, has to give up the spot. Back at the front, it's still Brian Smith, Cody Neal, and Jacob Smith. They're running pretty identical lap times. They have a train of cars all the way back to 10th place Bentley Glazer. And Travis Gilbert trying again to break up this Buddy Motorsports party and snag P3.
Yeah, that would be a great win here if Travis Gilbert can pull this one off. Because I know he hasn't been running the whole season, but, you know, he could possibly get into those playoffs with a win.
Ooh, Finnegan tags the wall pretty hard. Sparks flying.
So Shane, knowing you got 80 laps in this stage, right? What lap are you thinking to maybe pull the trigger on the proverbial parachute and come down pit road?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you are. You know, if you're Brian Smith, you've got a pretty good lead here. You can afford to go long, play it safe in case a caution comes out. But if you're, you know, Zach Lockett, Bentley Glazer, I say try the undercut. Get on pit road early, get out with those fresh tires and clean air, and then maybe a caution will help put you up in the top 5 instead of the top 10 where you are now.
51 laps to go here in stage number 3. Right now, Brian Smith is out to an almost 1 second lead with that Buddy Motorsports contingent just taking over to the top 3 and not looking back. It's Travis Gilbert side by side with Nathan Finnegan, and he's got John Ross right behind him along with Superman Jonathan Duncan.
Yeah, you got to wonder how much tire he used up battling Jacob Smith. He's starting to fall back into the clutches of these other drivers. $50 laps to go here at Nashville. It's Kevin Gunther continuing to battle back around 17th position. Now with Charlie Widener.
What I'm starting to see right now, Shane.
Ooh, Gilbert sideways. Off the nose of the 44, and he saves it.
Wow.
A little bit of a disagreement there between the 22 and 44.
I am glad they settled it out amongst themselves. Barney gets a much-needed break from waving the flags so far in this stage.
Now, why don't let's take a quick look back at that contact between Ross and Gilbert. Gilbert trying to maybe do a slide job there on him, and Ross gets underneath. And they just kind of run out of room there as they got tight right in the middle of that front stretch arc. Ross running in 5th. Gilbert dropped back to 7th. As Finnegan is now catching those Buddy Motorsports drivers. Looking to the inside of Jacob Smith.
I was almost going to say it looked like the fog had started to dissipate.
We ride along with John Ross. We got a front row seat to watch this battle between Finnegan and Smith.
And driver out of Bell Buckle, Tennessee. I've never been to Bell Buckle, but it sounds like one of those small towns where if you blink, you're through it already.
Yeah, Ross gonna get a run here and send it 3 wide. That's not what Finnegan is looking for as he tries to get around that 4 car.
I have some breaking news in the garage area for you. Buckle, Tennessee has a population of 543 people.
Not too bad.
And it is 5 hours and 32 minutes away from the city of St. Louis, so. And it looks like it is in the middle of the not the Rocky Mountains, but we'll call it the Smoky Mountains.
We've got Jacob Smith hitting pit road, along with Nathan Finnegan. Like I said, I think if you're Brian Smith out front, you can afford to run a few laps longer just to play it safe. But everybody else gonna need to use some strategy to catch up with that 78 car. And he's gonna come to pit road this time. That's gonna leave Cody Neal out in the lead. Chuck Van Schaik in second, Jonathan Duncan third, Zach Lockett in P4, and Kyle Diaz rounding out the top 5 as we begin this green flag pit cycle.
I believe you have called it.
Yeah, Neal's still out there though. You know, it can be fun running 1, 2, 3 with your teammates, but it's also a lot of pressure, right? Because you're not going to race Brian Smith maybe as hard as you would a non-teammate. So pit strategy might be the polite way to get around him. As Neal comes to pit road.
Now remember, Chris Van Schaik, he last came to pit road on lap 97. He might be, look, we've seen it before. He can go in a fuel saving mode.
That's true. He's out there right now. 45 laps since he pitted. 46 is the furthest we've seen anyone make it yet tonight. All right, everyone in the top 10 right now has not pitted yet. And the cars that are kind of in an advantage here. Michael Jennings, currently 7th. Well, he's going to come to pit road, but he and Champion, they each pitted on lap 106. So they've got another 10 laps they can run before they have to pit here. Champion now up to 5th. So we have Adam Ball on pit road, Michael Jennings. That leaves Chuck out front, but he's coming to pit road this time. Patrick Colby also just making it to pit road with Sean Purcell, Champion as well. That's going to leave the 95 out front on his 47th lap. As you see Brian Smith just in front of him, and Cody Neal is sideways down through the backstretch grass.
He's going to stay in it. No caution.
Wow.
As of yet.
Oh, he's got to be careful here as he gets back into traffic. As now Widener has hit pit road. Evan Patinko inherits the lead. He's gone 48 laps, setting a new record. Right now, everybody back to Kyle Diaz are on the lead lap here. Zach Lockett and Braxton Luis are the first 2 cars trapped a lap down. As long as Patinko and Widener stay out there, but Widener is on pit road. And here comes Patinko.
Yeah, he says, I've had enough.
That should cycle Brian Smith back to the lead with Nathan Finnegan. You can see him there just out of frame. About 2 seconds back. And Cody Neal, I think he was sideways coming off of pit road. That's going to throw a wrench into his plans.
I feel like it's going to throw more than a wrench. It's going to throw the whole toolbox.
So now we've got about a 5-lap differential between the oldest and newest tires. Probably not enough to make a huge difference here for the final stint. Smith still out front. Finnegan starting to eat into that lead ever so slightly. Gaining about a tenth on that last lap. He does still have 30 laps to catch him. A tenth a lap would do it. But he's got to keep that pace up as Bentley Glazer is in third on his rear bumper.
For me, I think with 31 laps to go, if you're Nathan Finnegan or Bentley Glazer, the sands of the hourglass is starting to run out of the proverbial hourglass, and you got to start being aggressive real quickly.
Yeah, Brian Smith actually having kind of a slow lap. That last one, 0.2 slower than those two drivers chasing him as they kind of even it out on lap times this one. Here's some Brian Smith trivia for you. Looking at the stats on the season, he's got 12 top 10s and only 11 races counted in the points. That's because of the icon. They drop a couple races, so when you check the stats, it can be a little misleading. More top 10s than races. But he is getting it done once again here in Nashville.
Just keep hitting your marks and do what you do, Brian. Because he has had that same paint scheme since Darlington on throwback weekend. And here he is. He said as long as he keeps winning races, he's putting that paint scheme. The only paint scheme he did not run, the only race he did not run that paint scheme was at Wilkesboro or Charlotte for the All-Star race. Wow.
And he's still won that All-Star race, if I remember right.
Well, and the next week, Jacob Smith goes back and wins the 600, last week. So
Finnegan starting to get a little bit of breathing room ahead of Glazer as Jacob Smith is catching them both. Finnegan still trimming away at that lead of Brian Smith.
Just 26 laps left in the books here.
As you can see, Finnegan's been faster than him each of the last 5 laps. About half a tenth on average. Glazer coming with him. A little further back in the field, Jonathan Duncan doing his best to catch up to Chuck Van Schaik. further back. Kyle Gilbert trying to work his way past Chris Camburn. As Camburn working on Kyle Purcell. They're making a little contact, get a little sideways. 3 wide. Ooh, contact pushes Gilbert up. Not going to be happy about that. So he kind of lets him know about it down the backstretch.
Kind of returns the favor. We got more contact.
And that Cody Neal in the wall. Back there probably trying to do too much, too late. And make up for that spin. He's in 20th position right now. Back up front. Smith starting to pull away again. Looks like Finnegan and Glazer had a slow lap that last time around. So take a look at the delta here. You can see they're pretty much matching lap after lap, with Smith edging away just a little bit the last couple. "20 laps to go." Finnegan and Glazer are going to have to find a little extra speed here at the end of the run, unless they can catch a caution and bring Brian Smith back to their bumper.
How awesome would that be where, you know, right now it looks like Brian Smith, and I don't want to invoke the announcer's curse, but it looks like Brian Smith has all but sailed off into the sunset here with that 1.5 second lead over Nathan Finnegan and Bentley Glazer. Bentley Glazer, who we normally see on Tuesday night with the Western States Racing League, is, well, here he is running third.
Yeah, Glazer doing a great job tonight. As I look back through the field, really the only car that has been consistently faster than the leader is Jonathan Duncan in 7th, but he just doesn't have the track position to do anything with that. He's going to start working on Van Schaik and Gilbert, though. But if we were to catch a caution and see some pit stops, I'd want to keep your eye on Duncan. As I mentioned, he's the one car on track consistently faster than Brian Smith right now.
We hope not to see a caution, but if we do, well, that'll shake up the complexity of the race.
Yeah, as now Smith has been faster than Finnegan each of the last 5 laps. He is sailing away. Now almost a 2-second lead. As Duncan and Van Schaik get around Gilbert. Jacob Smith riding in 4th position. No one really pressuring him from behind, but doesn't seem to be able to get to Glazer's bumper either. Jake Champion and Kyle Gilbert are battling here for 19th position, and Gilbert gonna smack the wall. No worse for wear, though. He gets the pass done despite the contact.
And Jake Champion there in that number 27 car. Here we are looking at Braxton DeWeese, who is solidly into the top 10, but Jeff Dillon knocking on his doorstep.
Cody Neal marching his way back through the field as best he can, getting around Sean Purcell, or trying to. Purcell gonna squeeze him down in the middle of the turn.
As that lead continues to grow from Brian Smith. Brian Smith well on his way to his 5th points win of the season. It's just going to be too much of a gap for Nathan Finnegan to overcome with 12 laps to go. As Brian Smith just put on the proverbial afterburners and said, see you later.
Yeah, I think at this point, just about everybody else has their fingers and toes crossed for a caution to get one more shot at the leader.
I mean, anything could happen.
We still have 27 cars on the lead lap. As Smith is coming up on the 16 car of Michael Jennings. And this field is really spread out all the way back to Zach Lockett and Travis Gilbert.
I just feel like if you're Nathan Finnegan, you're just run out of time, really.
Yeah, out of time and out of tires at this point. They were gaining for a while, but they have not been for the last 10 laps. It looks like Lockett is going to get around Gilbert. That is for P8. Adam Ball and Kyle Purcell are battling back here just behind Brad Delph. This is for 22nd position. Again, cars spread out all the way around this track here in Nashville.
Yeah, it's just 8 laps to go. Like you want a caution, you don't want to be the caution.
Yeah, as they're 3 wide here, Delph gonna back out of it at least at first. And let Ball take the position.
That's what I would have done. I would have backed out, maybe.
But Chuck Van Schaik has caught Jacob Smith. That is a battle for 4th, and he is there. We jump on board with Jacob Smith trying to fend off Van Schaik. Try and cross him over. Still some great racing here for 4th. Smith now with over a 3-second lead ahead of Nathan Finnegan. 5 laps to go in Nashville Super Speedway.
Make it 4. 4 laps to go here. Nathan Finnegan over 3.5 seconds back to Brian Smith. And like we said earlier, Brian Smith has just set the afterburners, put it on cruise control, and like in Star Trek, he is in warp speed.
Yeah, right there we see Van Schaik earn his way onto the podium for now, ahead of Bentley Glazer. He has been matching speeds with Finnegan even while making these passes. See if he's got anything for the 6 car with 3 laps to go. Widener and DeWeese battling for 10th position, side by side with 2 laps to go.
Popsicle sticks are out right now. We're watching these guys. Brian Smith on his way to get the doctor's coat flag.
Ooh, DeWeese smacks the wall, but takes the position away to stay in the top 10. 1 lap to go for Brian Smith.
A wave of the doctor's coat, and here we go. Down the back straightaway one last time.
He's going to take it. Just smoking the field is the 78 of Brian Smith. Battling back to the front multiple times tonight. Leading 124 laps of the 180. Showing us why he is your points leader. Picking
That's
up his
win number 5.
Yeah, 5th win.
5th points win.
Right, not counting that all-star race. His teammate Jacob Smith coming up to do some burnouts with him.
Are we going to see dual burnouts? Is that what you're telling me? We are. That's what
There
you're
it
telling
is.
me.
Can't quite get them in the same shot, but they are burning it down here on the front stretch. You got to feel for their teammate Cody Neal, who was up there with him before that spin off of pit road. Kind of broke up that Buddy Motorsports 1-2-3. Brian getting it done. Let's get some of these podium finishers up here in the booth. Starting with Chuck Van Schaik, finishing P3. You got Shane and Allen in the booth. Do you have a copy?
Yeah.
Well, we saw you on the march there at the end of the race, knocking them down. Not quite enough to get the win away from Brian, but you did make your way up onto the podium. Tell us about your night.
You know, every strategy that I was trying to pull off was, ruined by a caution. Just bad timing. You're not going to start deep in the field, get through the field, and catch Brian if he's starting at the front. Clean air, especially this track is king, and he's one of the best in here. I was trying to stay from, me as the back marker. I was trying to stay from trying to be in the back. But yeah, it's just letting off early. Even when I came out on the last run there, I think I definitely pitted the lead cars or the front half of the cars last. I still wasn't really gaining time because, the first 10, 15 laps, I just roll the bottom, get the heat in the tires, don't beat them up too much. It is a concrete track. So, and just probably about 15 laps into that last run, I started ticking off 2 tenths on everyone in front of me. So it was tight racing. Like I said, strategies just it wasn't a strategy race by no means. I think everyone's strategies were ruined by every caution. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a good finish, P3. I mean, I know I'm in the playoffs with a win, but trying to get some stage points, which I did tonight in both stages. Led a lap. That's why I really stayed at that point with all the strategies ruined. I just said, you know what, I'm going to stay out, lead a lap, get a point if there is points, and then see what it goes from there.
Well, yeah, a great way to build momentum. Like you said, you already got that win and you're in, but you want to keep that momentum going as we head towards the playoffs later in the year. Congratulations on hitting the podium one more time. Who else you got to send some thanks to tonight?
You guys for the great broadcast. The admins, Nate, and the rest of the admins. My team down at Dragonfly with Jonathan and Patrick. I think we were the only ones racing tonight. And then to my company, Goat Race and Diecast. I'm looking at the broadcast now. If you hit Control R, I figured out what my problem is with my paint scheme. The icon banner that I put on is black. So it totally just covers my paint scheme. So I fixed that, but I guess not. Yeah, I guess not in time for the broadcast, but I did fix it. So I figured it out. So, but yeah, that's it.
Well, congratulations again. We'll let you get back to your Sunday night, and we'll see you again next week.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Alan, next up for you is Nathan Finnegan, finishing P2.
Nathan, it's Alan and Shane up in the SRM booth. How's it going?
Hey, I got a copy, guys. Not too bad.
Hey.
We'll take a P2 for sure, the way we felt coming into tonight.
Absolutely. You know, it seems like everything you guys try to do was thrown out the window by these cautions. But take us through that last run and what more you needed out of the car to possibly catch Brian and get past him, maybe to contend for that race win.
Yeah, I felt like hats off to the 78. He ran an incredible race, did absolutely everything he needed to do in terms of controlling the lanes and controlling the lines and controlling that clean air. I think during that last stage, we were really focused on getting that track position. Honestly, that was something we just never had all night, unfortunately. And Brian and I were talking about that just now, and it's so difficult to make passes up through the field because you got to wait like a good 15-ish laps or so before you have guys that didn't take care of their stuff versus those that did, and then it takes 3-4 laps to finally finish off a pass on somebody running side by side. So I mean, not to kind of parrot the real life cup guys, but it is so hard to pass here. It is so hard to make moves, and it's I wish it was more multi-groove than it is, but this is the hand we're dealt, and we're happy with the P2 tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing about the fixed setup leagues is unless you're getting your setups from a proverbial setup shop, you're kind of at the mercy of Iracing. But nonetheless, before we get you out of here, who do you like to take and who helps you get it done on that number 6 ride?
Yeah, big shout out to the CCR ECR guys. Big shout out to Ryan for getting his hockey team in Nashville and doing big things down there. Hope they had a good trip. Big shout out to you guys for doing our broadcast each and every week. We appreciate you guys doing what you guys do, and big shout out to my wife and my parents for tuning in, and I think that about does it.
All right, well, congratulations on finishing P2, and we'll see you next week.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Last but not least is Brian Smith, driver of the 78, bringing it back to the checkered flag one more time. Brian, tell us about your night.
Yeah, guys, it was a pretty straightforward night. Obviously sat on pole, led all but I think one lap in that first stage anyways, but just tried to keep track position and stay out of trouble, and at the end of the day it all worked out, and I'm sitting here talking to you guys in victory lane.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the lap chart, you start on the pole, you lead the first 50 laps roughly, and then we kind of got into a strange pit strategy part of the race where there was a caution every 5 to 10 laps. Everybody kind of shaken up, taking 2 tires, 4 tires, no tires. Takes you 50 laps to get back to the lead, and then it happens again. Just a few laps later, you get shaken out, but you make your way back to the front pretty quick that second time and hold on for that long green flag run at the end of the race. Walk us through, how do you decide when to take tires, when to not, especially knowing that you have a limited number, as we were kind of laying it out at the beginning of the race. There wasn't enough to take tires every time, even if it stayed green. So tell us about how you make those pit decisions and how that helped you get back to the front.
So typically in this league, we get 5 sets of tires on a 3-stage race. So I tend to like to do the first stage without putting tires on. And what that does is that gives me the ability to put tires on in the middle of the second and third stages if I choose to. I don't always do it, but that was the mindset going into this one. And obviously we didn't end up using all the tires tonight, but that's what I like to do. I like to play it conservative. A lot of times I end up, hurting myself in terms of finishing position in the first stage. But for me, it's all about getting the checkered flag at the end of the race. And I like to make sure that I've got enough tires to do that. But yeah, I got a little messy there in that second stage because we were tight on fuel to just start the stage. So once that first yellow dropped, if I remember correctly, I think I went down and topped it off. And then that kind of set me back in the field. And then another quick one came out, maybe like after a 10-lap run, if I remember right. And so I put 2 tires on in that second stage, and I ended up driving all the way back up to second. It would have been interesting if that late yellow didn't come out in that second stage. That would have been fun. I think it was the 22 car that won that stage, and he was getting reeled in. But it would have been interesting with the clean air if I would have been able to do anything. And yeah, in that final stage, it was like an 80-lap run or a little less than that. And that was, got to do a green flag pit stop, which I certainly feel like is a big strength of mine, getting on pit road and hard on the brakes and executing properly off pit road. And once I had 4 fresh tires on and I got out in front of the 6, I was feeling pretty good, just crossing my fingers, hoping that a yellow didn't come out at the end of that last run there. And sure enough, it didn't. I know last year I ended up losing this race from a late race yellow, so nice to get this one sealed off and get another win on the season.
Absolutely. The other thing we were fighting up here in the booth was the fog. It was actually really hard to see the cars at one point in the race. Did that factor into the driving at all? It didn't look that bad from the cockpit views.
No, I think that shows up more from a spectator view. I don't pay too much attention to it when I'm in the car, but you could definitely tell there was, looking at the outer track background and stuff, there's definitely a haze, and thankfully it cleared up a little bit towards the end of the race. It sure seemed like, I don't know if that was just the lights coming on or if it did actually dissipate, but it was, it was certainly a unique environment to be racing in tonight.
Absolutely, and congratulations again on the win. Who else you need to thank tonight for the great run you had?
It was another good night of teamwork from the Buddy Motorsports crew. We were running 1, 2, 3 there for quite a while. Fortunately, Mike had a engine issue at the beginning of the race, so he didn't get to participate, but he was quick when he was out there, and just a good job by Cody and Jacob. Again, we've been killing it lately. Great job by everyone else out there tonight. I think there was 35 entries tonight, if I'm not mistaken, which is insane. So just a great job to everyone that runs the league, all the admins for getting to get that car count up. You're doing something right. And I always say whenever anyone asks me about Icon, I'd say it's a fun league that does a good job of keeping the races green for the most part. So yeah, shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast, and hope everyone that's watching enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. We always have fun watching the hard but clean racing here at Icon Cup Series. I think there were 37 official entries, but 36 of them started the race. But as always, yeah, great car count, great racing, and congratulations again. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Well, there you have it, Alan. It sounds like, for better or for worse, the fog was just our problem.
You'll have that on them big jobs.
Yeah, as we take a look at our results one more time, Brian Smith, Nathan Finnegan, and Charles Van Schaik are your podium drivers. Bentley Glazer 4th, Jacob Smith 5th, Jonathan Duncan 6th, Zach Lockett, Kyle Diaz, Travis Gilbert, Charlie Widener rounding out your top 10, Braxton DeWeese in 11th, Jeff Dillon in 12th, Kevin Gunther in 13th, Patrick Colby 14th, Sean Purcell 15th, Cody Neal 16th, 17th is Chris Camburn, 18th is Jake Champion. And we have Adam Ball and Mike Grinnell Brad Delph, Kyle Purcell, Evan Patinko, Kyle Gilbert, Brock Hersey, Ethan Van Colley, Michael Jennings, Charles Woods, John Ross, John McNeil, Tyrone Harris in that 3 car. We saw him up front for a while, but then I think he got caught up in one of those cautions. A newer driver here in the series. Cody Eldred, 32nd. Hanover Fist, 33rd. Anthony Tizio, 34th. Michael Taylor, 35th. Johnny Hamby, 36th. And Jacob Gladelich. Again, I'm not sure he started this one, but he was on the ticket. Alan, what are your closing thoughts here in Nashville?
Look, this race has had everything that we wanted and more. Great action, great, just a lot of strategy, and it's so hard to pass here. But nonetheless, let's get this thing on out of here and let's head to our next race.
Absolutely. We will be with you next Sunday night here at the Icon Cup Series at Michigan. Next Sunday, June 8th. And we look forward to it for everyone here in the booth and out on the track. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.